What's been the reaction amongst the Australian Olympic participants, given that this decision, while it's incredibly difficult, was clearly the right thing to do and fairly widely anticipated?
Well, it appears to me to have been welcomed pretty broadly by athletes here in Australia. There are a number of athletes who are still going through their qualification process. That was becoming more and more difficult because of the restrictions around movement and travel that were being placed. Clearly, this is something that's impacting globally, and I think that athletes could see that as it went on, the likelihood of the Games going ahead was diminishing, and so the opportunity to reset the horizon has been welcomed. Athletes now have something to focus on down the track. It's much, much better, I think, than completely cancelling the event. It gives all of those in the sport arena something to look forward to, and I think it will be a very important event for the world as we come out of the impacts of coronavirus.
Minister, what are the business implications and the economic implications, which are so far-reaching for the cancellation, or I should say the delay and deferral of these games? Outside of Japan, are you looking at implications for individual teams and athletes with regards to advertising, sponsorship and the such?
Well, I suppose a lot of these things will unroll as time goes on, but I note that the Olympics are looking to roll over the contracts that they have with their sponsorship partners. At this point in time, that will be important. There will be clearly implications for athletes as they continue their preparations and what that might cost them. But if you look at this in a bigger picture sense, everybody is being impacted by the coronavirus. And so we need to bear that in mind when we look at things from a bigger picture perspective. This is a sporting event. It's a major sporting event, obviously, and clearly there's economic and financial implications from the decision. But I still think it was a good one. We just need to work our way through all of these things as we're doing with everything else, as we manage the issues that the virus is imposing upon us across our health system and our economies, sport obviously being only just one part of that.
So tell us a little bit about some of those government measures specifically to support the sporting industry in Australia.
Well, at this point in time, we're just working our way through that. There's been a number of impositions, particularly around large gatherings and people movement, that has seen sport close down effectively, not only here in Australia, but across the world. And I think appropriately, because it's quite clear that maintaining good personal hygiene habits, cough and sneeze etiquette, and also social distancing is one of the things that we have to use to combat this virus as it spreads around the world. So clearly there's been implications for sport, right from professional sport at that level down right through the community. Here in Australia, I think sport will play a very important part in community recovery and re-engagement. Once we get the virus under control, it's going to play a very important part of that, and they're the sorts of things that we're looking to as we work our way through how we manage all of the different elements, how we manage the recovery of our local community sporting clubs and organisations, and the conversations that we're having with both Olympic and professional sports.
Does that include financial support as well?
Well, look, we're considering all of those things, but I can say at the moment our focus is quite clearly on ensuring the health of Australians. We're putting considerable effort into that. We understand that all of the things that we're doing are having an impact not just on sport, but on business across the country. Our airlines are effectively closing down. A number of industries are being severely impacted. So anything that we do has to be undertaken bearing in mind that broader context of the impact of what we're going through across the entire community and economy.
Minister, has it been a little bit tone deaf, some of the requests that you have gotten, for example, from the NRL for stadium costs, these conversations about whether players will have to take pay cuts given the context of the public health crisis, and we know the suffering of small businesses and families across the country?
Look, the codes themselves are undertaking some fairly significant conversations internally. I know that they're talking to all of their partners in the sports supply chain, if you want to put it like that, but there's conversations within the AFL, for example, around what might happen with respect to player payments. Those, I'm sure similar conversations are occurring within other sporting codes as well. Everybody is going to take a haircut as a part of this process. Everyone will be financially impacted. So those conversations have to be undertaken sensibly, cooperatively, because if we want to see a strong sporting codes come out the other end of this, we need everybody to survive. So we will obviously and have started having conversations with the various levels of sport around the country, and this will engage here in Australia from local government right up to the Australian government, and we're all going to have to consider what we might contribute to that process.
Minister, the world knows Australia is a sporting nation. It's a national obsession, if you will. Do you think this has come to the detriment of social distancing and self-isolation guidelines, given that even just a week or so ago, our Prime Minister was saying that he was still going to go to the football, and you see, the scenes on Bondi Beach, you see even just, down at the local park where people are still gathering, still clustering to be able to do sports. What kind of messaging do you think needs to come to get more clarity about the priorities right now?
Well, I think that realisation is starting to work its way through the community now, based on some of the decisions that have been recommended by the AHPPC, then the National Cabinet, and then some of the decisions that are being imposed at a state and local level by governments around the country. I think that there needed to be a realisation by the Australian community that this is something that's completely different. They clearly do need to change the way that they go about their daily life. This is going to last for a period of time. We're talking potentially 6 months. And so people really did need to come to the realisation that this is different. They need to change the habits that they're operating. And I think that's now permeating through the Australian community.